Welcome back. In today's video, we are going to discuss the unconventional features of heroism that we can find in the short story A Living God by Lafcadio Hearn. We are going to read through the lines of the short story, so let's start. From immemorial time, the shores of Japan have been swept at irregular intervals of centuries by enormous tidal waves, caused by earthquakes or by submarine volcanic action. So, since the beginning of time, nobody knows from when, huge tidal waves have been invading the shores of Japan at regular intervals. It is generally caused either by underwater volcanic action or simply because of earthquakes. These awful sudden risings of the sea are called by the Japanese tsunami, and these awful devastating rising of the sea waves, this phenomenon is known as tsunami. The last one occurred on the evening of June 17, 1896, when a wave nearly 200 miles long struck the northeastern provinces of Miyagi, Iwate and Amori, wrecking scores of towns and villages, ruining whole districts and destroying nearly 30,000 human lives. So the calamity was so huge, the devastation was so huge that the waves, it almost swept across numerous districts of Japan, and the waves nearly destroyed 30,000 human lives. The story of Hamaguchi Gohei is the story of a like calamity, is of a similar calamity. Hamaguchi Gohei, who is the central character of this particular story, his story is also similar to this calamity, this devastation about which we were just talking about, tsunami, which happened long before the era of Meiji. Meiji is Emperor Meiji, who ruled between 1852 to 1912. This incident involving Hamaguchi Gohei happened long before the rule of the Meiji emperors on another part of the Japanese coast, and this entire thing happened also on some other part of the Japanese coast. He was an old man at the time of the occurrence that made him famous. Now this story is about an old man, not the conventional Western hero who is young, who is physically gifted, but a man who is old. He was the most influential resident of the village to which he belonged, and he was the most influential man of the village. He had been for many years its Murausa or headman, and for many years he remained as the head of that particular village. So everyone respected him. And he was not less liked than respected. It means he was equally liked and respected. The people usually called him Oji-san, which means grandfather. But being the richest member of the community, he was sometimes officially referred to as the Choja. So out of respect, often he was called the Choja because he owned a lot of wealth. He was one of the richest members of the community. So out of respect, people often refer to him as Choja. But affectionately, he was called Oji-san or the grandfather. He used to advise the smaller farmers about their interests, to arbitrate their disputes, to advance them money at need, and to dispose of their rice for them on the best terms possible. So he would be involved in a lot of business affairs surrounding agriculture, because we understand that the entire village was mostly based on agriculture, and Hamaguchi's wealth also came from agricultural lands. So he would help the smaller farmers to deal with the outside world. He would take responsibility for various small transactions, for various business transactions between the smaller farmers and the market outside. Hamaguchi's big thatched farmhouse stood at the verge of a small plateau overlooking a bay. The plateau, mostly devoted to rich culture, was hemmed in on three sides by thickly wooded summits. So he lived in a picturesque place where his farmhouse was situated on the verge, almost at the border of a plateau, and it overlooked a bay. It was overlooking the sea. The plateau mostly devoted to rice culture. So the plateau was mostly used for growing rice. And it was hemmed in three sides, that is, it was protected or lined on three sides with wooden summits with wood coverings. From its outer verge, the land sloped down in a huge green concavity. From its outer verge, the land sloped down in a huge green concavity as if scooped out to the edge of the water. And the land slowly dipped down into a concave sort of a surface which was covered with plants, so it appeared like a green concave which opened directly at the edge of the water. And the whole of the slope, some 3/4 of a mile long, so this entire slope was how long? It was 3/4 of a mile, was so terraced, it was made into steps. Terraced means it was made into steps, as to look, when viewed from the open sea, like an enormous flight of green steps. And if one looked up from the open sea, it would appear that the person is looking at huge steps, huge green steps, divided in the center by a narrow white zigzag. But at the center there was a narrow zigzag which was a streak of mountain road. 90 thatched dwellings and a Shinto temple. Shinto, we already discussed in the introductory video what Shintoism is all about. It is a temple of one of the Shinto goddesses composing the village proper. So the village composed of 90 thatched dwellings and a Shinto temple stood along the curve of the bay, and the entire village was located at the curve of the bay, very close to the sea. And other houses climbed straggling up the slope for some distance on either side of the narrow road leading to the Choja's home. So the Choja's home was slightly up on the plateau, but the other houses were also situated along the terraced roof, or the place where rice culture was happening along the plateau. What happened one autumn evening? One autumn evening, Hamaguchi Gohei was looking down from the balcony of his house at some preparations for a merrymaking in the village below. So it was one particular autumn evening and everyone was preparing for some sort of a celebration. There had been a very fine rice crop and the peasants were going to celebrate their harvest by a dance in the court of the Ujigami. Ujigami is the guardian spirit of their clan, and since the rice production that particular year was excellent, so they wanted to dance in front of the goddess. The old man could see the festival banners. The festival banners were known as nobori, fluttering above the roofs of the solitary street, the strings of paper lanterns festooned between bamboo poles, the decorations of the shrine, and the brightly colored gathering of the young people. So it was a time of celebration. Everyone was gathered together. The village was decorated with the help of several banners, and everyone was getting ready for the festivities. He had nobody with him that evening but his little grandson, a lad of 10. The rest of the household having gone early to the village, and the rest of the household went down to the village so that they could prepare for the festival. Only Hamaguchi's grandson was there, who was 10 years old. He would have accompanied them had he not been feeling less strong than usual. So he was not feeling well, he was feeling weak, so he stayed back. He would have also joined them had he felt better. What happens next? What is so special or devastating about this particular autumn day? We will find that out in the next video. We will explore more into the psyche of our hero of the story, Hamaguchi Gohei, and see how he manages to work towards the welfare of his community members and for his villagers. Why did everyone call him a living god? We will find all of that out in the next video. If you like my work, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.